Hey everybody, Roll the Lions UK, Matt and Ant coming at you, just setting up right now. We'll take 5 minutes or so, but how you doing, man? Been a long time since I've seen your face.
I know, like a whole 24 hours, isn't it? Or probably 21, given how long we went yesterday. But I'm doing well. It's still absolutely boiling. I did 7 miles today hiking, and now I'm tired. I'm just like, but I've got my first fantasy draft. I'm only doing one fantasy league this year, and it's literally just started, and I have done no prep. So, any advice in fantasy, folks, I will take it from you. Um, it's crazy.
Just to give a shout out to the guys in the chat on Twitch, Dan Pass, David Reinfurt70 and Xlos Oceans X are there. On the YouTube chat, we've also got Brian Three Cushion, Ken Button, Brent DeWitt. We've got Giovanni Lyons II, Jeff Hurley and Brian Shook. And Jeff Hurley, before the show even started, coming in with a $10 super sticker like the absolute G-Man that he is, still the biggest contributor to the show by some distance. Thank you, Jeff. Your support means the world to us. Lost Oceans wants to know where you're picking for fantasy.
I'm fifth, and
In a 16-team league.
I'm in a 16-team league, and I'm picking fifth. And so far, it's gone McCaffrey, Jefferson, Eckler. Oh, number four's just taken Bijan. Who've I got? So I've got
Chase.
Jamar Chase is on the board.
Chase. You got to go.
I always take a running back round one though, and then I do receivers. There'll be no good running backs left by the time I'm on the board.
Do you want Derrick Henry at this point? Or
Saquon or Chase?
Chase is providing bigger value than Saquon to me. You'll get a running back in round 2.
I've got a minute and a half, folks. Saquon or Chase? What
minute
am I
and a
doing
half.
here?
16 team.
2 minutes per pick.
You'll be here for 3 hours on that clock. Fuck me.
I won't be. I don't know.
Burrow to Chase is going all the way. Just saying.
Yeah, but I'm not going to get a good running back though, am I? Really? I want one elite running back and then I have a rotational running back. It's how I always work.
You could get Gibbs at the back of round 2. You'll get Montgomery lasting to about round 4, round 5. You could get other like lower end starters at that sort of round 3, round 4 range.
Ken saying Barkley. I'm sorry, I'm going with. Oh fuck, I don't know. I've got 30 seconds. This is why I just don't do fantasy. I need a running back. I do, but Chase is a really good receiver.
Geo Lions saying Pacheco will be in the 2nd or 3rd, but I don't like his value because I think McKinnon's going to eat into his reps significantly.
Right, I'm going to get funky with the running backs. Chase it is.
Yeah! Let's go! One of us.
I'm going to regret that.
Okay, I don't think we've got anything extra to go through for the show. Is there anything you think we need to bring up?
Did we talk about bugs yesterday?
I've got it on the news for today. We didn't talk about him yesterday.
Oh, I've not had a chance to look through yet because I'm doing this fantasy stuff.
That's cool. Don't worry. I'll just read it through. It's all good.
Okay.
Okay. Giovanni also said Deuce Vaughn and Jamal Williams will be in the 4th. I do not want any piece of either of those guys.
Frankly. Well, Tyler Allegier is the one I'm targeting. He's going to get ignored now that Bijan's in Atlanta.
Allegier, you'll get like round 8, round 9.
Yeah. As long as he's one of the picks I get, I don't mind. But we'll see who goes.
Right. Are you ready to go? Because we got Neil coming in 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Lions UK podcast, episode 213. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing really good, thank you. I apologise in advance because I'm in the middle of a fantasy draft, but it's all good fun. Yeah, doing all right, cheers.
He's not addicted to them. It's literally his only one, and it got pushed back an hour to coincide with this. So apologies if it causes any disruption, but I don't think it will. Regardless, this is our first preview show of the year. Let's go! Football is in 2 days. It's celebration time, boys. And it's Lions at Chiefs. Yeah, we're away from home. And yeah, it's the Super Bowl champs. But football is back. So, without further ado, let's crack on with the show. And we've got Neil from Arrowheads Abroad. If you've not caught our draft coverage before, we've had Neil on for the last 2 or 3 seasons. He's absolutely fantastic, knows his team inside and out. That's part of the Kansas City Chiefs UK group, a huge fan group over here in the UK for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm pretty sure he's been there a lot. In fact, Ant, I don't know if you remember during the draft, but he held one of the Super Bowl winning rings. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was insured for $700,000 or something.
Yeah, it's crazy amount.
It was really cool. So yeah, Neil's great value. Anyway, can't wait for that. But to kick the show off, got to tell you about our Discord channel. Please come and join us there. Absolutely fantastic place to support your team and us. The link is in the chat right now. College Football Podcast is coming up tomorrow. And what have you got for us?
It's the review from week 1, first real big weekend of college football action. Every team played this weekend, and then so we'll be doing the preview up to week 2. A lot went off this weekend just gone, so I've got all tomorrow and some of today. I'm trying to set up all my notes and everything, but yeah, come join us. It's good fun. A lot of fun stuff went on at the weekend.
And just to tell you up front as well, we have got a live reaction show during the game tomorrow. Myself and Ash will be doing our play-by-play and colour commentary between us. Starts at about 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 1:15 a.m. UK time. We'd love for you to come and join us for that. Please don't forget to like the show, sub to the podcast, give us a rating and a review. You know how much it helps out small podcasters like us, so anything like that is much appreciated. And don't forget to support our friends at Lions Nation Unite as well. It's Herman Moore's project to bring the best in Lions content creators together. They've now got a Facebook group. It is facebook.com/LionsNationUnite, where you can find us amongst many, many others. It's a great place to be to support your team. We're Twitch affiliated, we are YouTube monetized, and we have a tip jar too. So if you love what you're listening to, please don't hold back in supporting the show. And there is a feedback form too. So if you've got any suggestions on content, on how to make the show better, just want to say hello, then you can find that in the YouTube description as well. Let's crack on with the show. And the first bit of news I want to get to is about Isaiah Buggs specifically before we move on to the game. Now, this wasn't specific to the game, but Buggs had a few interesting posts on Twitter. Looked like he was not happy about something. Looked like he might have had a disagreement with someone, maybe the team. Then it looked like it was going to be potentially a girlfriend or something like that. And it eventually transpires in press conferences that Buggs, and he says there's no issue here, that the team have been upfront with him and he's been upfront with them, that he is going to be a healthy scratch for this coming game. Now, I don't know whether healthy is the word, since he was out with injury, or illness, I should say, a few days ago. And it's very public, and he's not happy, despite it being somewhat amicable. They've not done it behind his back, but it's got to suck for someone who did so well last year.
Yeah. The thing is, Buggs was solid last year. You know, nothing popped off the page in terms of the numbers and that, but he came in, he did a very solid job for us in the rotation. And, you know, he rightfully earned an extension here. You know, it's only 2 years, 6 months. It's not the greatest amount in the world, but you know what? He did a solid job, and I was glad when we re-signed him. But the thing is, what it sounds like there's been an issue where he has just not performed in the off season. He has not done his job correctly. I mean, you look at the guys in the room around. Hang on, just one sec. Etienne, yes, take you. Sorry, why was that? Sorry, draft affected me. It seems like during the off season, during practice, obviously it wasn't OTAs, voluntary camp. Sorry, but obviously he had a kid. You can understand that, but it seems during the off season, during training camp, he has not been performing to the levels they expect of him. And when you look at the other guys in that room, so you have Levi, who's come back from massive, serious injury, and there was serious doubts about whether he could make this roster. He has absolutely worked his ass off to be able to get back in a position to get on this roster. And then you look at Broderick Martin, who everyone thought, no, this is a project guy. He's not going to see much time early. He is not going to contribute much. You see what a great camp he's had, how well he's performed, how much they're kind of surprised by it. Like, he's got a ways to go, but he is working incredibly hard to get where he needs to be. And they're trusting him with more reps on the field. And you see these young guys doing it, and you're like, it feels like he's been caught up and usurped by some of these guys, almost like he's just taking his foot off the gas a little bit, and these guys have leaped him in the pecking order, and he's not happy with that. But at the end of the day, I trust this organization when it comes to rating who's doing well. We know that they give opportunity based on effort in training, how you're performing, how well you're doing. And if they say Bugs is not up to scratch at the minute, then I fully believe them in that. And again, with some of the other guys in this room and the things they've done, I can see why. So it's sad, but at the end of the day, he's not a massively vital part of this. I think he's been over-egged just how big he is to this team because he's a culture guy and all. But, you know, it's sad. You want all these guys to play, but maybe this is the wake-up call he needs. And maybe he comes back in a week or two. His attitude is refreshed. He is back on the same page. He's ready to go and contribute. And that is great. Sometimes players need to kick up the backside. And it seems like this is what it is for him. You know, these young guys have shown up and he's not quite. So, yeah, I fully back the team's decision to do it.
I think it's telling. Two things are very telling here. One is that Dan Campbell has previous for this. He's benched people in the past or given them a public warning, like Jared Goff or other people like that. So they have previous for doing this, sometimes just to get a kick out of people, to try and motivate them. So I think there's that. The other thing is that at the nose tackle position, there is Benito Jones and there is Broderick Martin. We were talking at some point about only carrying 3 defensive tackles. We carried 5. The fact that Bugs remains, when he could have been cut, if this is what they thought about him, they could have been cut. But what they see in him is a guy who they think has got the right attitude to respond to the challenge laid down in front of him. I mean, we picked him up for free. If we let him go for free, we really lost nothing here. So the fact that they've kept him around, I think, speaks volumes to what they think of him in spite of what they've done about his poor performance so far. I firmly believe in his ability to bounce back from this, and I think they believe that too.
Yeah, I think they do. Like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with his attitude per se. I think it's very good for the room. I just think the other guys have worked so hard that they've almost surprised him. I don't think anyone expected Levi to be back in the rotation. I don't think anyone really expected Martin to be getting serious consideration for snaps so early. And these guys have worked so hard that they've caught him napping, I think. I think he thinks he's been training well, but these other guys have been working even harder and they've come in and usurped him.
Yeah.
And that's what a case this is. And sometimes it's not bad. It depends how he responds to it. I don't like the hissy he threw on Twitter. I don't like it when players do that, but you're going to grind your ass off and get back in here, then that's fine. Don't forget, we are the team that picked him up and gave him an opportunity and gave him a contract. So we have shown faith in him. Now it's time for him to show his faith in us. If we bench him, there's a reason why. We're doing it for his benefit. You know, he needs to step up and really put himself back into the rotation again. And if he doesn't want to, then that kind of says that maybe we made a mistake in doing this. But I'm with you. I think he's got the right attitude. I just think he's been caught unawares by some of these young guys who've really balled out. So let's hope this is the end of it and we go back to just healthy competition.
And he went wear his heart on his sleeve. He's always been that way. I just think he is who he is. And I don't think that shows a lack of culture. I just think that's a guy who is upset at missing out. And I mean, would you rather someone was like, yeah, okay. Like, that's a much worse response. At least be pissed off. Like, I'm okay with that. So, whatever. Anyway, let's move on to the game review because we've got Neil from Arrowheads Abroad joining us in just 15 minutes' time. And in this game, Lions at the Chiefs, the betting has come in slightly since I checked a couple of days ago. We'll talk about why in just a second. On Bet365 in the UK, the Lions are 43-20. The Chiefs are 13-5 on. That puts them favourites by 6 points. It was 6.5. And the over-under for points has come in by 0.5 point to 53.5. Looking at the injury report for yesterday, because Tuesday's has not been released yet, the Lions only had one limited player. That was Emmanuel Mosley. Full practice was Bugs, Ifatu Melifomu, and Frank Ragnow. We know that Ragnow did not practice today. He is going to sit out a day of practice in the 3-day rotation every single game this season. It's been confirmed. It's just veteran rest because of his toe. So nothing to worry about there. For the Chiefs, they also haven't released their injury report from today yet. But on Monday, they had limited practice from Richie James, the wide receiver, L'Jarius Sneed, the cornerback, Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver, and Tershawn Wharton, the defensive end. Full practice by Nick Algretti, the guard, Nick Jones, the cornerback, and BJ Thompson, the rookie defensive end. We do know that today, Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee, and Andy Reid has come out saying they do not know what his status is going to be for the game on Thursday. Other injuries, they have 2 players on IR at the moment, the tight end Jody Fortson and the safety Nazir Johnson. They also have missing defensive end Charles Omeniu with a domestic violence commissioner's exempt list thing going on with him. He was one of their big ticket people coming in 2 years, $16 million he was playing, but probably missing this game. And defensive tackle Chris Jones, the star, did not report for training. He is holding out and they have not come to a deal. Even if he comes back now, it really feels like it's going to be a bit quick for him to play on Thursday. And when you don't have on menu Chris Jones, and with Kelce's status in the balance, this is not a full-strength Chiefs team, especially with their superstar positions, but Mahomes is still there.
Yeah, and that's the main thing. You know, a superstar quarterback will elevate any team that's put around him, and we've seen his ability to do this in the past. You know, he's not always had the greatest of receiving groups to work with. You know, we didn't have a good running back to work with when Edwards-Helaire was there, and they had to rely on Pacheco to come through. He didn't have a great offensive line. When they lost the Super Bowl against the Bucs, I mean, he just got absolutely mullered and destroyed. But always he fights his way through the adversity. So these are big losses for them. But at the same time, I'm not sure how much they matter in the grand scheme of things, because for me, this game is all about it's all about the mental, not about the physical or the skill of opposition against this. Does this Lions team have the backbone to go to Arrowhead and win under pressure and under expectation? And it's great not having these guys in there, but at the same time, crowd's going to be rabid. You know, Mahomes is still going to be making plays. You've got to shut him down. They've got a really good offensive line. They've got a good running back room. It's still tough. But yeah, no doubt this does hinder them for this game, depending on what happens. I'm still not counting the chickens until those pre-game lists come out and they're declared inactive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would put money on Travis Kelce limping out there for a few reps. I mean, Gronkowski basically did that for the final few years of his career and still made a living. So, you know, anything's possible. And you saw what Mahomes did with a bum ankle last year. I mean, I know it's a bit different having to run around and having to throw a ball, but you've got to drive through your legs to throw a ball. He was exceptional last year in that Super Bowl run, Patrick Mahomes. Sorry.
Quickly, Scary Terry or Cam Akers?
Terry.
Pacheco's coming up.
Yeah. Anyway, Kansas City depth chart. Let me just run down the starters and key depth for you guys. Patrick Mahomes is obviously the unquestioned starter. If he gets injured, the backup is Blaine Gabbert. At running back, they have starter as Isaiah Pacheco. Backed up, the third down back is Jerick McKinnon. And then the first and second down backup to Pacheco is former first-round pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who somehow is still there, despite being healthy scratched for the Super Bowl last year. Wide receivers, they've got a lot of could be good, maybe good, don't know really. Kadarius Toney, as I mentioned before, limited in practice on Monday, is the top guy on the board. They've also got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the former Green Bay player. Sky Moore, the former Western Michigan Bronco. Justin Watson, Rashee Rice, the second-round rookie. Richie James, who is going to be the kick and punt returner. And Justin Ross, who's had a bit of a resurgence in this off-season. Apparently he's been absolutely lighting it up, which is great to see considering the injury history he's had in his college career. Tight end, Travis Kelce, we've heard about. If he's not able to go, the backup is Noah Gray. And the offensive line, Donovan Smith at left tackle, Joe Tooney at left guard, centre Creed Humphreys, right guard Trey Smith, and right tackle Jawan Taylor. They also have as backups Lucas Niang and Nick Algretti on that offensive line. And that offense, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Pacheco, a 7th round rookie last year, absolutely lit it up behind a really good offensive line. The wide receiver core is like, with any other quarterback, you'd call it the biggest bunch of mids ever. Tony, Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, like, what's someone doing with them? But with Mahomes, he turned them into superstars.
Yeah, a great quarterback will always upgrade his wide receivers, always make them better. But the problem with this Chiefs wide receiver group is just there's so much speed in there. There's so much motion ability. And you know how much the Chiefs use misdirection and motion in their plays. A guy like Sky Moore is completely electric and can be great on his day. MVS, as mid as he is, will stretch the field. Rashee Rice is a very big-bodied outside wide receiver who is going to get physical. He's going to go up and get the contested catches. They have a wonderful group of guys who all do something different, who all bring something different to the table. And, it's not a one-dimensional group of wide receivers. It's varied, which is the most dangerous group. Sometimes you just have the same sort of guys in there. These are not, like I said, you've got the deep field threat, you've got the perimeter receiver, you've got the guy who plays in motion, who's lightning quick. It's actually a pretty good group. And I like a lot of these guys. And, with the quarterback throwing to them who's pinpoint, he's precise, they're dangerous, and you've got to be very, very careful with them. You've got to adapt on the fly. You've got to be quick. You have got to communicate well to pass them on. They present a lot of danger to us, these guys do. Well, they don't have a superstar wide receiver one like us, but every guy in there serves a very valuable purpose to that team.
Just want to give a big shout out, because I didn't 13 minutes ago when he tipped us 25 princely dollars. X-Loss Oceans X says, "Pump for the season, let's go Lions, one pride." Appreciate you, man. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you for doing that. Moving on to the defense, George Karlaftis, the rookie from last year, is the left defensive end in a 4-3, followed up by Derek Nadi, the defensive tackle, Tershawn Wharton, defensive tackle, and edge Mike Danner, backed up by Keandre Coburn and Felix Anduike-Uzoma, the rookie first rounder and 6th rounder, respectively. Linebackers, they have Willie Gay, Jack Cochran, and Leo Chenal. Why is Nick Bolton not listed as a starter in ESPN's depth chart? I don't know, but they've also backed up there by BJ Thompson as well. The back four, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson, cornerbacks, with Jarius Sneed carrying an injury, so whether he starts, not sure, but he's certainly the best cornerback of those three. And Justin Reed and Brian Cook, the safeties, but Chamari Connor, the rookie, might well be the starting slot corner, pushing out Trent McDuffie to outside, even though he played in the slots last year and did very well. Special teams, Harrison Butker's the kicker, Tommy Townsend, the punter and holder. And this defense, and come on to total defense in a minute, but it doesn't strike me as a world-beating defense. Certainly we saw its ups and downs in the last couple of years, but when they're hot, they're really hot, especially with an attacking system they have and a terrific defensive coordinator.
And it's chock full of elite young talent. That's the thing. Again, they may be missing their big names. They may be no Amenahu. They may be no Chris Jones in there. But what's fierce about the linebackers have been the big thing for this team. They are just so aggressive when it comes to defending against the run, when it comes to blitzing. The whole point of having a guy like Chris Jones is it's not just he gets tons of sacks and he gets tons of pressure, but it's sort of alleviated to on Mike's show earlier. What he does is he punctures the wall. So he breaks up the interior, takes on a double team, and then the rest of the offensive line cracks. And all these guys who are aggressive, who blitz, who make plays, leaves them free to overwhelm offenses. And it's how they work. And there's a lot of good young talent in here. Now, it's not established yet. Now, people may not worry about the edges, but Anadi Kazoma and Karlaftis are top-tier edge rushers. They will be top-tier edge rushers in this league sooner rather than later. Both of them are very fierce, aggressive, relentless in the way that they play. And then even when you go down to depth chart, you know, the linebackers in there, you go all the way down to B.J. Thompson. So B.J. Thompson was the star from Stephen F. Austin last year, who he made so many plays in college football. He's, you know, the stats were off the charts, but he fits exactly what the Chiefs are about. This outside linebacker who comes in, who blitzes, who forces pressure, who just simply overwhelms you, which is their whole modus operandi, is what you do: collapse the middle, break off the edge. So even without some of these top guys in there, I see lots of young studs, especially in those first two levels, coming off the edge, who you have to be very careful against. And if you don't respect them, if you leave them one-on-one, they can do damage to you. So you've got to nullify that linebacker group. That's what you've got to do here. You've got to find some way to take them out of the game and sort of target the other weaker areas. But it may not be full of star names, but there's so many young guys in there who I really, really, really like, and I will be worried by playing against.
We're going to talk about the total team stats from last year as well as their off-season moves in just a moment, but we have been joined by our guest for the evening, Neil Blair from the Arrowheads Abroad. Neil, welcome back on. How you doing, man?
Thanks, Matt. I'm good. It's kind of weird not recording these at 3 o'clock in the morning with you.
Yeah, I know, right? It's weird not doing it during the draft, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this will happen only once in every 8 years unless we're extremely lucky.
Yes.
There we go. How are you doing, first of all? We last saw you in the draft and you showed us a very shiny Super Bowl ring. You had a great season last year. How is it being a fan of a winning team?
It's amazing. I've been a Chiefs fan for 30 years and I've seen some truly dreadful teams over the years. You know, we went 2-14, got Eric Fisher in the first pick of the draft. We've had some bad years, but with Patrick Mahomes now, you just got to enjoy it. Like there's no two ways around it. It's been an incredible run with him at quarterback, and as long as he stays healthy, there's probably another 5 or 10 years of this.
Yeah, it's just that easy.
Basically, yeah. Right, that'll do, lads. Thanks very much. That's my analysis.
And coming on to pre-season then, since we last saw you, how have things gone in camp? Because I take note especially of Cam Jones making the cuts for you guys. I think it was the UDFA, wasn't he, in the end? The linebacker, slot corner guy.
Yeah.
How's camp been for the Chiefs?
To be honest, it's been a bit overshadowed by Chris Jones not being there. And a lot of the talk over the recent weeks has been about that. But generally speaking, camp went fine. Couple of injuries, but they kind of seem to be coming back and getting ready to play now. Kadarius Toney injured his knee in the warm-ups before the first practice of the first day of camp, and he hasn't been seen since. But he looks like he's going to play on Thursday night, so he's coming back. Allegretti's coming back. He's been out for a while. He's backup offensive lineman, though, so hopefully we don't need his services. But generally speaking, preseason went pretty well. Camp went pretty well. No major injuries, although in the last hour, Travis Kelce hyperextends his knee, and he's currently having an MRI on it. That's concerning. But we'll see what that brings up in the next couple of hours.
I drafted him 5th overall in a fantasy league, so I'm not praying for him for this game, but generally speaking, please bring him back soon.
Yeah.
Looking at the off-season moves that you made in the draft in general, we talked about at the time, but some people may not have seen our shows doing that. So how do you feel looking back now with Andrew Zoma from Kansas State, Rashee Rice, Chamari Connor, B.J. Thompson we were just talking about? It seems like, you know, despite picking quite low down, that you guys have made the absolute most of what you could.
Yeah, I was I wasn't overly enamored at the time. I kind of felt each player we could have probably got half a round later on in the draft. Um, but once you see them kind of in pads and you see where they're likely to fit in, there's roles for most of them. Rishi Rice in particular, he looked really good in the preseason, and it's very difficult to be a rookie in Andy Reid's offense. And so to see how well he did during preseason, that was quite an eye opener. Um, Justin Ross as well, although technically not a rookie, he was on IR the whole of last season. Um, he looks like a baller, like he really does.
I mean,
Yeah,
and just coming and weigh on this because you're the college guy. If Justin Ross wasn't injured perennially in college, where would he have gone? Justin Ross of Clemson.
Oh, he'd have been a first round pick.
There we go.
Easy.
Yeah. Had the talent. I mean, he went undrafted mainly because people thought his back might not hold up, right?
yes, yeah.
So I'm not surprised he's come. It's a long-term investment coming good, hopefully.
Yes. I mean, they put him on IR for the whole season last year. It was one of the kind of, oh, he's hurt his toenail kind of thing. We'd best put him on IR for the season. But really, you're just stashing him, giving a year to get healthy, and then like come back to us next season. Well, he has looked like a first round pick. He looks the business. He really does.
Does that mean that you're expecting him to maybe not start, but take significant reps? Because you've got. I was just trying to describe the depth chart to everyone. You've got a lot of quite good wide receivers and quite good wide receivers who on their day could be game breaking, but on if they're having an off day, they could be really bad too.
Yes. I kind of said on our pod a couple of weeks ago, we've got a lot of number 3 receivers. Most of them you'd be really happy if they were your third guy. Now, Travis Kelce is wide receiver 1 for us, despite the fact he's a tight end. He is the number 1 pass catcher. The offense goes through him. So you only really need number 2s, but I'm not quite sure any of them are at that level yet. The big question for us this season is, are they going to develop into number 2 viable options? If they do, good luck everyone else. If they don't, then we could have problems.
And then looking at that defense at the moment, it's hard to say what to think of it because with Chris Jones out, it changes the face of what you guys are able to do. As Ant was talking about, the linebackers appear to be very, very strong. I was high on Leo Chenal and he's come really good, but Nick Bolton had a fantastic year last year. And then the back 4, McDuffie, Reed, Sneed, Cook, Chamari Connor in there as a sock corner. Darius Rush is in there too, although did he get cut? Rush? No.
Yeah, I think he might have done.
I haven't updated that, but anyway, it's a really good back 7, but the front 4, not sure.
I mean, you missed Watson and Williams, who were 2 rookies last season.
Lafayetteville State. Yeah,
exactly. Yes, exactly. I mean, they were both. No, Darius Rush made the team. Yeah,
he did. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah, the 2 of them were both exceptional as rookies. I think the thing with the defense last year, I mean, it was a rebuilding year in theory last year, and the amount of defensive snaps we got from the rookies was ridiculous. But at the same time, they performed, and if they can improve and if they can get better this season, then defensively we could be top half of the league. And if you give Patrick Mahomes a top half of the league defense, it's going to be very difficult to stop. But Chris Jones obviously not being here at the moment, like he was 16 sacks last season, something like that. He was a large part of the pass rush. He was a large part of the game plan. I'm curious to see what they'll do on Thursday night without him, because it's going to be hard for you guys to game plan because he hasn't really missed any games. So you don't know what they do when he's not in the lineup. So who's going to step up and take his place? I don't know. Nardi, no. Wharton coming back off an ACL, probably not. And then you get into like Neil Farrell, who we've just picked up for a 6th round pick from the Raiders, and Keandre Coburn, who was like a 5th, 6th round pick in the draft this year. There's not a great deal at defensive tackle if Chris Jones doesn't sign.
Yeah, and even if he does, he's leaving it very, very late. I mean, I know.
I don't see any way he plays on Thursday night. No
No,
way.
no, it seems too soon. Okay, so going specifically into the game then, and not just talking about Kansas City, how do you feel that this game might go? Because as much as it feels like a bit of an honour for the Lions to be picked for this game to kind of start the season off, it did feel like everyone was going, well, they might keep it close, but no chance, really. And all the news coming out has seemed to kind of go, oh, maybe we're going to give you a chance because, Kelsey might not play and then, there's injuries here and people might be a little bit banged up there. And after it's all said and done, how do you see the game going?
A shootout, I think. Even if Kelsey doesn't play, Andy Reid's had the whole off season to game plan for this, and Andy Reid's really good after a bye week. Andy Reid to start the season. The Chiefs haven't scored less than 33 points in the season opener in the last 8 years. So there's your starting bar. You need to score 34 or more if you're going to be in with a chance to win. Can you do that without Chris Jones playing? Yeah, maybe. But I would be backing the over on any bookies I could get my hands on, even without Kelsey. It's just, you don't know what the Chiefs are going to play like if Kelsey doesn't play, because he hasn't really missed any games. So you don't know what the offense is going to look like then. Who do they focus on? I don't know. There's no one person who you could say, this is where the offense is going to go through. And if Mahomes spreads it round to 8 or 9 receivers, lads, you could have a long afternoon or evening.
I mean, it feels like Pacheco did such good things last year as a 7th round rookie that's something you guys can perhaps rely on. And yet it feels like if that happens, that the Lions are suddenly getting some plus action there by taking the ball out of Mahomes' hands. And, if you lose doing that, I think the Lions would probably accept it. It's not letting Mahomes beat you. It's try your best to shut down Mahomes, and if you win a different way, okay, fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the offense doesn't run through Pacheco, so Pacheco's kind of like a 15 carries 80 yards, and that'd be a very nice game. Thank you very much. But he's not going to win the game. That's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Slowing him down, stopping him, man, they are difficult tasks, to say the least. I mean, he's QB1 in the league, and to be honest, I don't think it's particularly close. If you watch him week in, week out, he just has such a command of this offense. He knows what defenses are going to do. He's seen it all before now. He's only just coming into his best years, which should be a scary thought for the rest of the league. And the defense, from a defense's point of view for the Lions, who are you going to try and take away? Like, there's nobody you really think, well, we've got to stop this receiver. But you could just find yourself getting gashed by, I wouldn't be surprised if everyone had like 5 receptions for 50 yards. Mm-hmm. And, how do you stop that?
You can't. That's really tough.
Basically.
It's how I feel like when the Lions eventually lost Megatron and we suddenly moved to an attack that had Golladay, Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, and it's like suddenly you've got 3 receivers, you spread it out, who do you cover? Whereas Megatron always had 3 guys on him, and he still went and got it anyway, but more balance is harder to defend, so I totally buy what you're saying there. That's
how the offense kind of evolved last year. After we lost Tyreek Hill, the question was going to be, well, everyone was double covering Tyreek Hill, so who are they going to cover? And teams double cover Kelsey now, but the offense doesn't necessarily run quite through Kelsey. Like, they cut down his snap count last year, so they're kind of starting to kind of just use him in more targeted areas of the pitch. But then they just spread the ball around so much. We lost Juju Smith-Schuster this offseason. He was 1,000-yard or 950-yard receiver last year. So there's yardage to be picked up there, but who's going to pick that up? It's going to be very, very difficult to tell at the moment because none of them are proven, really.
So if the Lions were going to give you some trouble on Thursday, what should we be looking for to kind of exploit either way? I mean, you're talking as if, it's going to be hard to pick out anything in particular for the Lions to do, at least on defense, because who do you cover? But would you look for the Lions to put a spy out there for Mahomes, make sure he doesn't escape the pocket, or are you just going to say we're going to play a too high shell and go for it? Or in fact, would you go single high, man to man across the board and just say, do with that what you will? And on offense for the Lions, like defensively, is there anything we can exploit on the Chiefs apart? Is it that defensive line? Do you want us to not run the ball down your throat? Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked a bit about how do you beat the Chiefs over the past few years, and I have a theory, and it's not too well tested because there's not too many teams have managed it. But on defense, you need to force turnovers. You have to win the turnover battle, because if you both have the same amount of possessions, you're going to lose. So you have to take away at least one, if not two, of the Chiefs' potentially scoring drives, and you need to have them yourself. So I would be very aggressively trying to force turnovers. I would be punching the ball rather than trying to tackle, because if you let the Chiefs just catch the ball and run with it, they're probably going to score points anyway, but you need to take that ball away from them. So I would say you have to win the turnover battle. And on offense, people talk a lot about ball control offense, or, keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands and, make it a 7 possession each game. Again, that doesn't work because the Chiefs are scoring touchdowns on probably 4 of those 7 possessions. So you have to do the same. So just the ball control doesn't help. You need calculated aggression. You need to take risks. You need to go for it on 4th down. Don't punt in the Chiefs' half of the field. You're wasting your time. Go for 2 points. Like, why not? You need to take every possible calculated risk that you can to at least get 30 points. You need to do whatever you need to do with that kind of target in mind. But keeping the ball and just running the ball down our throats, yes, you'll probably get yardage out of that, and you might get points out of that as well. But I don't think you get enough points to win the game.
I buy what you're saying, and every time you watch the Chiefs play, it's basically everything the analyst says is keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, win the clock control battle, and you give yourself a chance. But because Kansas City is so efficient on offense, if you make it a 7 possession each game, as you say, and you score every time you touch the ball, you can't win. And it almost seems like you want to create more possessions in order to have more chances to force turnovers, because it feels like turning the offense over, like you kind of said initially, is the way to win the game. And the only way you do that is by scoring to put the ball in your hands.
Yeah, completely agreed. Yeah.
Fair enough. And do you have any
It sounds easy, but like the times we have lost recently, we've turned the ball over, and like Mahomes, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot, but there are fumbles there to be had from the receivers, can be a bit kind of iffy on that score. Pacheco's reasonably solid, but not infallible either. I think defensively, can you fool Mahomes once or twice in the game enough to make him throw a pick-worthy pass? And then you have to take advantage of that as well. If you can do that. So from a defensive point of view, from your guys, you're saying about playing the 2 high or playing single high, I would throw everything at him. Like, vary it. Just play cover 0 and have a couple of goes where you just throw everyone at them. And then
against the best quarterback in the league against pressure, though.
You are trying to force him to make mistakes, and he doesn't make many, but you have, because if you just sit back in 2 high, he's just going to either hand it off to Pacheco or throw it underneath. We played a lot of 3 tight end sets last season, and we were lethal out of them because teams didn't know what to do with them, because all three tight ends were good receivers. We had Kelsey, we had Noah Gray, and we had Jody Fortson. And so if you play base defense against us, we had like 4 passes over 30 yards from that formation, which was ridiculous. If you play nickel against us, they just hand the ball off and you've got 3 tight ends blocking with the offensive line and you run it down your throat. So you can't let the offense dictate to you how the game is going to be played. You've got to try and fool Mahomes. You've got to be, as a calculated aggression on defense as well. You've got to try and create opportunities. And if you don't take the opportunities, fair enough, that's fine. You probably would have lost anyway, even if you didn't try. But your route to winning is you have to try and create those opportunities in the first place. And that means you have to take risks.
I mean, in terms of, as a poke ahead from my perspective, I guess lessen your chance of winning overall and make it a luckier game. Create some variance in the game, because sometimes you hit the upside of that, and that's
exactly
where your win percentage comes from. Okay. And any thoughts for Neil on the Kansas City Chiefs?
Covered it pretty well so far.
Okay. Just looking at fumbles, and Pacheco had 4, Mahomes had 5 last year, Sky Moore had 3. I didn't even think he played that much. And Juju had 3. Okay. What do you think about the Lions, just from an outside perspective? Because we did our season predictions yesterday. We are very much in our hype bubble, in our Kool-Aid driven bubble, and well, let's say since I've been a fan since the mid 2000s, I've never seen hype like it for a Lions team. I mean, even with the Stafford Megatron connection, even with that second-ranked defense in the NFL in 2014, I've never seen anything like this. So what do you think about the Lions from an outside perspective?
I like them. I think offensively, I didn't like the fact you took Gibbs quite as high as you did, but I do think he was a good addition. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a really, really good receiver. If he was on the Chiefs, he'd be wide receiver 1 by a country mile. I think the big question for you guys this season is, how do you deal with that hype? Are you going to get caught up in that hype as a team? Are you going to buy into it too much yourselves? And will you get carried away with the idea that we're going to win the North just by default because everyone's picking us to win the North? I do think you'll win the division because I don't think a great deal to any of the rest of the teams. But I could probably cover a lot of the NFC under that blanket as well. I don't think a great deal to many of the NFC teams. But I do have a bet that the Chiefs will beat the Lions in the Super Bowl. That's one of my bets for the year.
That would be both heartbreaking and really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, but I can see a route to it because the NFC isn't strong. And so getting a wildcard place shouldn't be that much of a stretch for you guys. You have the team to do it. You probably have the team to win the division. And once you get to the playoffs, then it's a crapshoot. You could get a couple of lucky bounces and you could make it all the way. Do I think you'll win the Super Bowl? No. Do I think you'll get to the Super Bowl? Probably not. But I think this year could be a really good kind of foundational building of a really positive experience. You win the division, you probably win a playoff game, but I think usually you need to lose that next playoff game this year before you go on next year and start winning kind of deep into the playoffs. You need that playoff experience, which you don't really have at the moment.
Kind of almost give it the story the full circle and then come to fruition next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's what I've thought of the Bills for a few years now, and they keep letting me down on this. And I'm kind of out on the Bills now because there's a lot of hype about them, and they're one of stacked rosters in the league. Yeah, so on and so forth. But when they had the 13 seconds game against us, I kind of thought, well, they needed to lose that one to kind of go on a winning streak. And I wonder whether they have in the kind of the mentality in the playoffs of, if we don't perform here, we're going home, because 3 years in a row, they've not exactly,
Yeah, it's a weird one with Sean McDermott because you can't fire him given what he's done. But can you trust him to go all the way either? Questions are going to start happening if they don't win an AFC Championship game soon. Yeah. I just want to move to the defense because you focused a lot on the Lions' offense, and Hutchinson obviously played a big part for us last year. We invested quite heavily in the back seven. Jack Campbell coming in, Cam Sutton coming in from the Steelers. We drafted Brian Branch. Kirby Joseph had a great year. CJ Gardner-Johnson came in. Emmanuel Mosley is banged up right now. He's come off the park. Whether he plays, we don't know really. Do you think that, though, it's too much of an easy question to say, do you think that was wise? But do you think that's going to translate early doors? I mean, it's a lot of turnover for the chemistry to hit game one, perhaps.
No, I think, but then again, you don't want to be playing your best defense in week one. And like from a tiebreaker point of view, if you lose this game, you're losing to an AFC team, so it doesn't really matter. Um, you want to be kind of after your bye week, week 10 onwards, then are you playing your best defense? Have you got that chemistry together by then? You'll find it with the Chiefs as well. Like we won't be at our best defensively. It takes Spags until after the bye week to really kind of to fire things up and to get a good handle on what players are good at and what he can use them to do. And I think with that turnover that
just
you've
on
had,
that point, just to interrupt, what is it
Yeah.
about Spags which switches it on? Because it's consistent over the last like 3 seasons that the Chiefs have. And I mean, we were talking about the Chiefs' defense, I think 2 years ago, as potentially one of the worst defenses we've seen in a long time. And then suddenly they were the best defense in the league. And it's like, what switch flicks for him? Do you really think it is that he just works out what he can do and he just affects that? Or
yes,
I just struggle to think that he gets it so wrong at the start and kind of progresses forward. And I don't mean so wrong, but do you know sometimes that Chiefs defense has looked awful, and then you're not beating them, and it's just so stark.
I have a theory about the Chiefs in general, and this goes for Andy Reid as well as Spags. The regular season, they try and keep it as vanilla as they can to win enough games to get to the playoffs. You see it on offense. You get to the playoffs, and it's almost like Andy Reid has set up every team they're going to play in the playoffs and say, right, you think you've got our tendencies sussed. We've set up these tendencies, and then when it comes to the playoffs, we're going to do the complete opposite of what we've done all season, and you're going to have no film on this. We're going to run out formations which we've never used. We're going to have bloody huddles that run around in circles where offensive linemen come out as wide receivers. We're going to come.
Oh, we know about that one.
We're going to throw all this stuff at you that you have not seen all year, and you're going to be able to deal with it. Well, I think Spags, to an extent, does the same as well. I think the first half of the season is just Spags playing around and seeing, right, what happens if I do this? What happens if I drop Nick Bolton into coverage? What happens if I move Nick Bolton into the A gap? And, how do teams react to that? Do they try and block him? And then does that free me up to leave Chris Jones one-on-one? And that's what they did a lot down the end of last season, was you could tell which offensive lineman the Chiefs didn't respect, because Chris Jones would line up against them, and then the Chiefs would blitz next, or at least walk a linebacker up to the line, so that the offensive line have to account for him. Whether or not he's going to blitz or not is a whole different story. But then you've got a one-on-one matchup with Chris Jones and whoever the Chiefs don't think is very good, and Chris Jones wins a lot of those matchups. And I think a lot of the early half of the season is just Spags saying, I wonder what would happen if we do this. And maybe I'll try this. I wonder, is Cook good at covering in a single high safety? Let's play single high safety for a while and see what happens. And then by the bye week, they've got all the information. They know what they're good at. They know what they're not good at. And then they can kind of try and dictate to teams, right, we're going to force you to do what we want you to do, because we know that we can do these things really well and we can affect the game in these ways.
Just to talk about the kind of general season expectations for you before we come on to a score prediction, it seems almost glib to ask what's a successful season for the Chiefs, but it's kind of funny to see how much success goes to your head. Is it Super Bowl or disappointment for you at this point onwards? Like, until Mahomes goes, is AFC Championship loss almost like, well, we've left something on the table there?
This is going to sound really arrogant, and I know it's going to sound really arrogant, but yes, absolutely yes. You could make a very compelling case we should have been in 5 straight Super Bowls. We had a loss to the Patriots where we had D Ford's offside and we intercepted Tom Brady late in the game. If D Ford's wasn't offside, we win that game. And then we were 21-3 up against the Bengals with about 5 seconds to go to halftime on their 5-yard line. any kind of points in that situation, and we're probably not losing that game. And then Mahomes just had a really uncharacteristic second half meltdown. And that lost us. He lost us the game, which is not something you would say very often. So we've hosted 5 straight AFC championships in a row. If Mahomes is healthy, there's no reason to think that's going to change, to be honest with you. And then once you get to the Super Bowl, it's a toss-up. But at the moment, the NFC, I don't think, is particularly strong. And we will probably have played a number of better teams during the season from the AFC than whoever we come across from the NFC. And in which case, you've got to say, well, we ought to beat them.
I mean, I think that should be true of any Super Bowl really at the moment. AFC versus NFC, it has to be advantage on that side of the ball, unless you beat each other up. It's perfectly possible. And coming on to this game specifically, I mean, you've just talked at length about the fact that you do very well on opening day, but actually expectations for the team in general is to kind of be somewhat vanilla and just do enough to kind of win enough games to get to the dance. And you know, there's some possible key injuries there. Maybe with or without Kelsey is kind of hard to put a specific prediction on, but what do you think the game's going to come to?
Well, the Chiefs against the spread are not very good, and I think we're at 6. Actually, it's gone down to 6 points now.
Yeah,
from 6.5 with the news of Kelsey. So I do think it will be a 1-score game, but I don't think you've got enough firepower to keep up with us on opening day at home with Mahomes kind of fired up and Andy Reid with a whole off season to plan. So if I was going for a scoreline prediction, I'd be kind of somewhere 36-30 or thereabouts. Maybe 36-31, and you'll cover the spread, then it'll be a 5-point game. I do think you can run as close, but I would be surprised if we lost.
That's fair enough. I will say I'm not going to spoil the rest of our show quite yet by saying what our predictions are going to be. We're going to leave that to the end, but I will message you if you're interested to think what
absolutely.
to predict. It's been fantastic to have you on again, Neil, and
it's been a pleasure,
I
Matt,
hope you have an amazing season as always. I don't think you need well wishes, but you have them anyway. Hopefully we'll see you
in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, maybe your bet comes true and we're doing this again in 4.5 months' time.
That would be great. I would be very happy if that was the case.
I mean, finally, you've got a podcast, and there might be Kansas City people watching potentially. So, can you tell us about it?
So Arrowheads Abroad podcast. We're weekly. In fact, as soon as I've finished with you guys, we're going to record ours. So, kind of in the next 15 minutes or so. Yeah, you'll find us on social media. We're on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, at KC_Chiefs_UK. You'll find us on Facebook, Arrowheads Abroad. We have a website. Just Google Arrowheads Abroad. It's on there. It's arrowheadsabroad.blog. something or other. And
for Lions fans, yeah, I'm sure there's a picture of a Super Bowl ring being held by you somewhere, isn't there?
I don't think there is. I don't think did we put pictures? There might have been, actually, because I did write a diary when we're in Kansas City, so you could read the Super Bowl diary, and there may well be Super Bowl ring pictures in there.
Because you sent a picture of it to us. I just didn't know whether it was public or not, but it was very pretty.
It's huge. The funny thing about that was, like, the guy who did the tour for us, he brought that ring and the one that they got for the AFC Championship that they lost to the Bengals, and he was like, guys, these are insured for 40 grand plus. So I only have one request here, which is don't drop them. And so everyone's kind of like really gingerly trying them on, going, this looks amazing, like with one on each hand, but you're kind of terrified of, God, what if I drop this and it breaks? But I mean, it's industrial strength, covered in diamonds. Like, it would have been very difficult to do anything bad to it, but
yeah,
the nerves of just trying it on, going, oh wow, yeah.
Well, good luck for the game. We'll be up watching it. I'm sure you probably will be watching it live.
I will, yeah, I will indeed.
Good luck, and we'll speak to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
Cheers, Neil.
Bye.
All right, guys. I said he was a good guest, didn't I? I promised a good guest. Neil delivers every time. Lots of thanks coming in from the chat. And have we learned something about the Chiefs? Because I didn't really think that it was. I didn't even really consider why the defense seems to shift so drastically for the Chiefs year to year, but they always start badly and then warm up in some aggressive way.
Team that just adapts in general. They're the best at it. That's why they win the Super Bowls. The offense adapts every single year to the personnel it has, as he said, and then with the defense, it's kind of similar, because this is a very offense-orientated league now. It's difficult for defensive coordinators to just come right in off the bat and be really good. It feels like, given the way the league is, it's up on the defensive guys to catch up rather than the offensive side of the ball. So with a lot of teams, I think that the offense starts off quicker, the defense catches up when they start cottoning on to what teams are doing. So it doesn't really surprise me in that way, but they're just a team that adapts and they keep growing and they keep evolving. They get to the top of the mountain, and what a lot of teams do when they get there is they think, well, we've got there by this, it's good enough. But what they're like is, no, people are going to be coming for us now. You've got to increase the mountaintop. You've got to get higher and stop them getting to you. And that's what they do better than anybody.
It's true. Just looking back at their stats from last year, by PFF, the team was the second best team overall in the league with a 93.2 grade overall. 85.5 on offense was number 1, and 79.3 on defense was 5th in the NFL, which is, I think, a lot better than some people think that defense was last year. Quarterback, obviously Patrick Mahomes last year, 435 of 648. That's a 67% completion percentage. 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, passer rating 105.2, quarterback rating 77.6. He also ran 61 times for 358 yards and 4 touchdowns. His PFF grade on his own was 92, which was number 1 on the team. And just to highlight what the team are missing in Chris Jones, defensive tackle, 92 overall grade was first. He had 4 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles and a fumble recovery, 15.5 sacks, 44 tackles and 77 pressures from the interior of the defensive line. The next nearest in sacks was Carl Aftis with 6 and the departed Frank Clark with 5. And it cannot be overstated how much Chris Jones missing this game means to the context of this game, because without him, that defensive line is a shadow of what it could be.
No, he's the battering ram. He's the one who creates the holes, creates the gaps for the rest of them to exploit, and he's the guy who can make a hole and do it himself. He's, every good side has that dominant interior lineman or a pair of them or a rotation of good ones, and he's their guy. You double team him, it takes the center and the guard out of play. That's why you have such hyper-aggressive linebackers for them, because you've got a guy in front of you who's going to create the gaps for you to go and send these guys. And it's overwhelm. It's what they do. Get guys in 3rd and long and then send the house. And there's just nothing they can do about it because the secondary's good. And these linebackers will just come up and they'll change the game for them. The edge has always been sort of the area for them, but they've invested in it 2 years in a row now, so they understand that it is an issue. But it's a huge loss for them, and trenches is how we're going to win this game. If there's a possibility for the Lions to win this, they have to win both sides of the ball, and without him in there, you would feel pretty confident that our offensive line is going to be better than their defensive line, because I say it's rookie driven in there at this moment in time. They're good rookies and they will be great players in the NFL, but our offensive line is there. It's experienced. The lesser guys in there now. Sewell's had a couple of seasons, so it's a case of we're better, and this just gives us an even bigger advantage. It allows us to open up what we can do in this game now. It's going to force their linebackers to come up and help. And that's going to create opportunities down the field. It's going to be able to create mismatches, etc. It's a big loss for them. Huge.
Looking at their off-season generally, they drafted, and I've mentioned a few of these names already, but just to be complete, 31st overall edge Felix Anduike-Uzomah from Kansas State. In the second round at 55 was the wide receiver Rashee Rice from SMU. He was getting plenty of first-round hype for a long time, but fell actually quite away. 3rd round, 92 overall, the tackle Wanya Morris from Oklahoma. Fourth round, 119 overall, the safety Chamari Connor from Virginia Tech, although calling him a safety is like calling Brian Branch a safety. He plays in the box, 2 high, single high, and slot cornerback. Sound familiar? Fifth rounder, 166 overall, is the linebacker BJ Thompson from Stephen F. Austin, and talks about him earlier on in the show. Sixth rounder, looks like he might get significant reps as well at the moment. 194th overall, defensive tackle Keandre Coburn from Texas, and rounding off seventh rounder, 250th overall, the cornerback Nick Jones from Ball State. But I did also mention that, of course, Cam Jones also made it as a UDFA, and I was not a particular fan of his in the draft process, but he's had a terrific camp by all accounts. Looking at free agency, they didn't make too many moves, but Jawan Taylor came in for the same amount Orlando Brown Jr. left for 4 years, $80 million. They also brought in the edge, as I mentioned earlier, Charles Omenihu, 2 years, $16 million, although he's on the commissioner's exempt list at the moment. And they lost, as mentioned, wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster to New England for 3 years, $25.5 million, and the swing tackle Andrew Wiley to Washington for 3 years, $24 million. And not a particularly active offseason, but then they won the Super Bowl, and they haven't lost many significant players. Yes, Frank Clark's gone, but he didn't have a great career in Kansas City. Maybe it leaves the defensive line looking light. Jawan Taylor for Orlando Brown, we'll see how that goes. But they have retooled in the draft, and otherwise it remains the same team that won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the defense is going to be scarily good in a couple of years' time. They've made so many good signings in there. You say you've got Karlaftis and Anodi Kuzoma. They're going to be an edge rushing pair for the next decade, a high level one. And then you even just go down into the secondary. They've just made such great picks. Joshua Williams came out of Fayetteville State last year, and he's won himself a Super Bowl, and he was one of the best corners on that team. He's not even listed as a starter. He's the starter there. He will be. He's that good. And then you come into the draft this year, Chamari Connor, like you said, do it all. That Virginia Tech defense, great. Nick Jones, absolute stud for Ball State. I mean, he was one of the real under-the-radar guys when it came to making the picks in the linebacker room there. They developed him. I mean, they've just got so much potentially in terms of what they're going to get this year, what they're going to get in the years to come. So they're already rebuilding. They're a dynasty now, and they've got a ton of these positions that are going to be sort of going forward. But for this moment, there are vulnerabilities in there. You know, a lot of this group is young. They've got some of the more experienced guys. So, when the guest comes on and says he doesn't think our offense can keep up with them, I think that's rubbish. I think it's absolutely rubbish. I think we can keep up with them step for step. I have absolutely no issues with us here being able to do this. And I'm not going to use that trope of running the ball down the throat. That's not us. People love to say with this team who love to run the ball down the other team's throat. We don't. We've never been a team that does that. It seems to be this thing with Campbell. We have a genius offensive coordinator. And how we're so good is because of how we mix things up. Yes, the run game hasn't been the best, but the use of motion, the use of your wide receivers, spreading the ball around, trick plays, all this. It's as dynamic an offense as theirs is. The only difference is they've got an elite, once-in-a-generation quarterback at the helm, whereas we've got a very good quarterback. But still, we can do everything they can. I have absolutely no compunction that we can keep up scoring with them. It's all going to come to what the defenses specifically can do. And you've got to do it by playing to your strengths. Like he said, the only time Mahomes struggles is when you bring pressure on him. I know he works well under pressure, but when you really dominate, like the Bucs in the Super Bowl. The Broncos last year, now that's a fun game to watch because he threw 3 picks in that game. They pressured him 25 times. It was because they were making him get out of the pocket. And they were getting burned, absolutely. But because they were getting him out of the pocket so much, because they were putting him under pressure, he was throwing errant balls. And he's not throwing to the most technically refined receivers out there. If they can't get space, you have got opportunities to make there. And what are we at? We're 7 deep at edge. That's our strength on this team. No adapting to what they are. If you're going to win this game, you've got to stay true to who you are as a team. On us, on offense, that is keeping up this ingenious approach to it. It's not just trying to run the ball and keep him off the field. It's just staying surprising, coming up with all these new ways. And on defense, use your edges. They're there for a reason. Rotate them in and out. Your interior linemen, beat that offensive line into submission, because Jawan Taylor is a substandard tackle. He is not worth all that money they have spent on him. The interior is good, but you tell me that left and right tackle, we cannot overwhelm them? Absolutely, we can. Especially with the sort of guys we have. You bring Houston in off there. You bring Barnes up. You can overwhelm that line and you can cause problems there with them. So this is all going to come down to how the defenses do. Play to your strengths. Your secondary is good. You've brought a lot of guys in. Just hold long enough for the guys to get home and you can do it. So, yeah, there's a way for us to win this game. And I absolutely 100% do not buy into the thing that we cannot keep up scoring with them. We can. And they're going to be in for a rude awakening if they think that that's the case, because they're going to be very surprised.
I think the thing for me, looking at their stats from last year, it's striking how good they were at situational football, apart from one thing. So on third down, on offense, they were the second best team in the league. On fourth down, they were the second best team in the league. And in the red zone, they were the second best team in the league. Third down percentage, 48.7%. Fourth down, 75%. Red zone, 69.4%. That red zone percentage, that's touchdowns in the red zone for how many visits they have. On third down on defense, they were 13th best. But in the red zone, they were 31st. So situationally, on offense, they are an absolute juggernaut. No matter what down it is, no matter where they are on the field, it doesn't matter if it's in the red zone. They convert in the red zone like no one's business. But in the red zone, the defense, because it's stronger against the pass than it is against the run, it folds in a constricted field because teams actually do like to smash them in the mouth. And over 20 yards, they can do the business. But it's putting a drive together against them when they're good in coverage. So for me, the run has to be a part of this. And I think the beauty of the Lions offense, and I think you talked about it very well, is it's not just about the run for the Lions, but what it is what I hear a lot in commentary is sort of an extension of the passing game, whether you call that slants or anything like that. Goff finds the ball to get the ball a way to get the ball out of his hands quickly and productively and efficiently. And that is an extension of the run game. That's what that is potentially called: swing passes, screens. And then they build in play action boots with lots of different options, as well as a run game which is very effective. It's very hard to stop, just as much as the Chiefs' offense is very hard to stop. The thing I want to highlight about Mahomes as well, most yards he's ever had in his career last year with 5.250. Next highest was in 2018, which was the best year of his career. 12 interceptions is the second most he's ever had. The most was 13 in 2021. So he is throwing picks at some rate, and he has done for the last couple of seasons. He was still obviously the MVP last year. His QBR wasn't the highest of his career, but he actually led the team to 4 game-winning drives last year. That's the most in his career. The Chiefs were not the best they've ever been last year, but he has some fortitude to come from behind. So even if the Lions do punch him in the mouth, the Chiefs are going to come back. Like, there's no putting this team out of their misery. You've just got to keep coming.
See, you say they're better against the pass, but I mean, they were 8th in yards given up against the run last year, 18th against the pass. This defense is really good against the run. You're playing into their hands by running at them. So again, it's a trope. We've got to keep Pat off the field. You do, but you have to be ingenious in how you throw. Just play to your strengths as a team. Our strengths now is using motion. It's spreading the ball out. It's keeping teams guessing, playing higher tempo. That is how you go about putting points down on them. And like I said, a lot of these guys are young. The edge guys are young. The secondary guys, a lot of them are young. And they're really good. But you've just got to put them under pressure. Like I say, get out there, lay hits on them, establish yourself. And with the imbalance between the offense and the defensive line now, you've got the perfect opportunity to do that. But don't give those linebackers an opportunity to get in it. Get them wide, get them out of position, because they thrive best. And you talk about the red zone defense. That's why they're not going good in red zone, because when you think Chris Jones loves to rush the passer, Frank Clark loved to rush past. So the guys in the backfield and the linebacker group, they love to come up and blitz the passer. When you have them restricted in such a small space, they can't operate as well. If you push them into a corner, they don't work as well. You give them a full open field to work with, they are aggressive, they will take everything away from you. You push them into a corner, they can't, because they can't operate how they like to. So, yeah, you've just play true to who you are as a football team. Don't adapt to them. Screw that. Just do what you do best, and that will give you the best opportunity to win. And I agree with him. We're going to have to take risks in this. We're going to have to overload the edges and go for him, but we can do it. We've got the speed guys on the edge now. Houston will be perfect for this game. Patty ain't going to be running nowhere when you're sending Houston after him. None of this stupid playing around, leaving him in coverage. Get him in there as a pass rusher and send him after.
Can you imagine him playing the Sam role outside Hutchinson? What do you do with that?
Exactly. This is what I mean. You do go aggressive here because we now have the DBs to hold up in single man coverage. We have them to be able to do their jobs. If you have the starting group out there, they can hold up long enough for these guys to get home. And the way Houston closes, Pat ain't going to have time to throw. That's why these elite speed guys are so valuable, because against these guys who are clever and crafty in the pocket and don't need much time, greatest weapon against them is closing speed, forcing them into errors. So you've got to be ingenious on offense, and then you've just got to be aggressive on defense. We've had to sit so deep in previous years because the secondary has been no good. We don't have that problem now. Just go out, use your best players, because you're going to win with your best 22 on the field. Not by adapting to what you think they're going to do. Just play to your strengths and the rest sorts itself out.
The injury report is out. It's much the same as it was yesterday, but I'll just give you the changes on the report. Richie James, the wide receiver for the Chiefs, upgraded from limited to full practice, as was Tershawn Wharton, the defensive end, limited to full. Travis Kelce added, as we've discussed. He was limited in practice on Tuesday. Obviously, we know that he played some practice and then had to leave. Frank Ragnow did not practice for resting player, otherwise as you were for the Lions. And if you had to boil down the keys to victory in a couple of short points, what would you say?
I've just said it there, really. Stay true to who you are as a team. You've got to keep evolving. The offense has to keep evolving. Use all these brand new weapons. You've got Jameer. Throw him in there and use him. Your receivers, spread them out. Use your tight ends. It overwhelmed sides last year when we were able to, and we got the offensive line to be able to run the ball better now. So just do what you're best at on offense, put points down, and then on defense, again, play to your strengths. Your strengths are on your defensive line and in your secondary. Perfect pairing, because you get home quick, he throws picks. Just be true to who you are as a team and play hard. That's what you got to do. Win the trenches, play hard, and give yourself a fighting chance. Don't worry if you're going to give up some big plays here and there. I don't want to see this team go out there and meekly get picked apart trying to sit in coverage, because that's just not going to work. With Pat, he's too good. You've got to unsettle him. You've got to make him feel uncomfortable. You've got to hit him. You saw last year he was playing injured because he got hit in games. You've got to do that to him. You've got to unsettle him, make him unsure. That's the only way you can do it. So, yeah, aggression on both sides of the ball.
I have trust in our defensive line for the first time in forever. I really think that they're going to get the business done. But going up against an offensive line that played quite that well last year, on both sides of the ball, that's the battle, because their defensive line, I don't feel like, is up to much. Our offensive line should dominate that battle. And so that's my key to victory. If that doesn't happen, we've got no chance. Our offensive line has got to be pushing them back in the run and creating really nice open pockets that, have nothing at all to worry about for Goff, so that he can just deliver. Because if we give Goff time, he will pick them apart. And to Aaron Glenn, because he's struggled with this over the last 2 years, and I think it's potentially due to the quality of players he had at his disposal, you have to trust your back four or back five to do your business. The DBs, put them on an island and trust that they are going to lock people down. And if you get burned doing it, fine. But we talked about it ad nauseum over the last 2.5 years. He was unwilling to... He gave protection to the young guys, which was understandable, and we got burned by just being ground out of games sometimes. We need to go on the front foot because they've talked about having an aggressive defense since they came in, and this is the time to finally flick the switch.
Yeah, it is. You don't win Super Bowls by playing conservative. You win by being your own brand of team. Like, as our guest was so well putting it, Spagnuolo, he experiments. He finds out what's good with his defense, and then he runs with it. He doesn't just sit passively and hope the line's going to get home. You find what you are strong at, and you work with it. Like I said, our D-line's just packed with players. If it means using a Sam linebacker as well as an edge, overloading an edge, then go for it. Trust your corner. You've not brought in Gardner-Johnson to sit there and provide coverage for Cam Sutton. You're just not doing that. Cam Sutton is more than capable of dealing with a guy one-on-one on the perimeter on his own. Bring him up. Use these guys. Blitz the corners. Blitz the safeties. Force them to have to allocate their resources into protecting Pat. Because if you're getting these one-on-ones on the edge, I back our DBs against their wide receivers. Absolutely. So, bring your resources forward and get after him. You don't win a game against Patrick Mahomes by letting him sit there in the pocket and slinging it round and just by trying to be good in coverage. This team just cannot do it. We don't have the linebackers to do it. It's not our forte to sit there. We're no good in zone coverage. It's just we get picked off way too easily. So use your guys to the strength and blitz the damn guy. That's why we've got so many of these guys who can do it. Send Derek, send James, send Aiden. You just overwhelm them. And you'll make your plays. You'll give up some points, but you will turn the ball over and you'll get more. If we have a turnover margin of +2 in this game, our offense will score double-digit points more than they will. We're giving them 2 more drives than they get. Plain and simple. That's how you do this.
And if you have to boil it down to a score prediction, bearing in mind what you predicted yesterday, what are you going to call it as?
I'm the same. I think we're going to lose. I always... There is a path to victory in every game. I'm not going to sit there and say that we can't win. I'm saying this is how we could go out there and win. But the issue is not talent with me, and I've said this for a long time now. It's not a talent issue. It's a mentality issue. This team have not been tested under pressure. They have not had genuine bona fide pressure and expectation on this team so far in all but one game against the Panthers last year when it was first started getting talked about as getting to the playoffs. That was the first time in the 2 years they've been here that they were under some legitimate pressure, thinking, maybe we could get to the playoffs here. Maybe we could sneak in. And we got rolled over. The lines weren't up for it. The defense wasn't up for it. The offense wasn't up for it. They let it get to them. The one thing this team hasn't done, and we can't argue against this, is win games under pressure. You are going to Arrowhead. You are going to be in a stadium which you're going to be working silent count on offense. Really, it's loud. It's noisy. You're against the team that has done it. You're against a quarterback who's better than anything we've seen in the league for a very, very long time. Can you go there and show the mentality to come out and win this game? I believe in this team's core grit. I do believe in its ability. And I do believe that the mentality is getting built to be able to do this. But to do it week one against the champions in their own ground, I just feel like they're still going to have a little bit too much for us. They have play callers who are the best in the NFL, really. An offense that just keeps adapting, an offense that keeps building. I think it's just a little too much for us here. I say it's a one-score game. I think I said, 38 or 37-30, quite similar to what Neil said, actually. I do not think there's any shame in that. As long as the team plays hard and shows that it can go out there and work with it, that's fine. If they go over there and get rolled over, I would have massive concerns because that shows to me that they can't hack it. So there's a lot at stake of this game, but I just can't go out and say they're going to win it yet because I've just not seen it up here yet. Not when it matters. And as soon as they show me that, I'll start to back them in those situations.
For myself, I picked a win yesterday by a point, and I didn't actually give a score, but I really think this is going to be a really high scoring game. Despite the defensive additions we've made, I just think that this is going to be a game of short drives and high scoring. Basically, what Neil was talking about, the way to win for the Lions is scoring quickly and often, and I feel like that's exactly what the Chiefs will do to us too. No matter what investment we've made on defense, this is still Mahomes we're going against, and he is going to shred you from time to time, and I feel like that's going to happen pretty often in this game. And that won't be any point against our boys. He's just going up against the best of the best right now. But I have confidence that we have the backbone required. Now, we acted as spoiler for Green Bay. There wasn't really pressure on that game. There was more inspiration on that game. But I still feel like it proves something that the Lions, when push comes to shove, that they will deliver when their backs are against the wall, because they still would have felt like they needed to prove something by beating a team that's had the hold over them for the last 25 years. And they absolutely did that. And against the Chiefs, I feel like the travelling army is going to be pretty big as well. I know that it's a loud stadium and it's a fantastic place to go to. But have you seen how many Lions fans are going? I don't think this is a point against the fact that the Lions are going to do better. But I just think when it comes to it, the Lions' offense outside of Mahomes is unquestionably better. Our offensive line is better than theirs, even though both are really good. Our wide receiver core, I mean, even though people question our wide receivers, I think the majority of our wide receivers would make their team, would be starters in their team. I think our new shiny tight end would obviously not start over Kelsey, but with Kelsey out, would start in that team. I think all of our defensive linemen would start for their team. So I'm having a look at it thinking, hang on a minute, I really feel like we're better than they are. And I know it's in their own house. That's why I'm picking a 1-point victory and not bigger.
I mean, I would love that. There has to come a time...
I didn't give a score, 46-45.
Well, all I'm going to say is I've got a 100% prediction for this, which I will hammer, and you will get me wrong. Do not hit the under on this game. This game is not going... You're wasting your money. You may as well set it on fire or put it on, a Bears quarterback.
It's 53 and a half. 27-28 is going to do this. That'll be reached in the first half alone. I fully believe that they'll be up at 45, 50 points in the first half alone. Smash the over, print yourself some money. Do not throw it away by hitting the under. I would absolutely say that. No, I agree. I think our offense is better. And I think it's got an offensive coordinator who is just as talented as what they have. Again, it's just... I've got to wait until they can show me that they can go there and win in one of these situations. I will remain skeptical. And Binns, as it's at the Super Bowl champions who've not lost a lot of their team, calling me skeptical just for now. But, there has to come a day and age where we win these games. That's why the Seahawks in week 2, it's a win. I will accept nothing less than a win. No heroic defeat against the Seahawks again. No, we came close. Anything less than that, and I will go ballistic. That's where my expectations are. Those are the sort of games we've got to win, but we're going to have to do it on the road as well. This is going to be the first test that will set us up. I've got us winning against the Chargers on the road. I've got us winning against the Saints on the road. Because I think when it comes to those games, we'll be there. I just don't think right now with it. I think we'll work our way up to it. So... But I just hope to God they prove me wrong. I mean, a perfect week would be us beating the Chiefs and Jordan Love putting 400 yards down on the Bears and then winning. That would be like my Christmas come early. I would love that so much. But, I think you can forgive me just feeling skeptical at this moment in time. I hear what you're saying. I guess I just have... You're wanting to see proof, and I'm just saying that I have faith. And they're probably two sides of the same coin, really. You're just one side of it, and I'm the other.
It's not going under, Michael. I'm sorry. We're not going to run the ball. That's playing right into their hands. We're going to play expansive, aggressive, offensive football. and that is what will get us points against them. But this is going to be a very high scoring game.
I'm going to put one out there as well, which is that I think that Marvin Jones is going to come down with a score. I just have faith in a reliable pair of hands in this game, and he's an excellent person to have out there. Right, that is going to do it for us on this one, slightly shorter show than usual, but as we get into the season, our preview and review shows should be a bit more to time than we have done before in the off-season. But we do have more shows. So tomorrow, Ant and Ryan are going to be talking college football, looking back at week 1, looking ahead to week 2, including a Game of the Year candidate in week 1. Absolutely fantastic match. And Ant said during it, and I quote, "It is an absolute pleasure to watch this game," which is maybe the most British thing you've ever heard. We will be live watching the Kansas City game, so please come and watch it with us on this channel. It'll be me and Ash calling the game. I'll do the play-by-play. He'll do the colour commentary. It's really good fun. Depends whether you like the commentators or not on the actual game, but I know that some of the guys have said they've turned off the commentary to listen to us and synced it up, which I think is nuts, but I've always held ambitions of being a commentator someday, so you can hear our amateur versions of it there. We'll be reviewing the game at some point later on in the week on a day TBC, because Ant, you might have a special appearance on a show later on this week, maybe?
Yeah, I'm going to sort it. I'm just very busy at the minute, but I will get it sorted out.
Are we talking about it at all, or not saying anything at the moment?
Not just at the minute. I want to get it sorted first. It's
a big college football thing for us if it happens, so keep your eyes peeled on Twitter, which I will not call X, on pain of death. We will announce it, obviously. There was a question in the chat which I'm going to address after we've finished signing off here, but to everyone for listening, thank you for it. We appreciate you guys very, very much. If you've enjoyed the show, please don't forget to show us some love in the ways you know how to do it. Socials, Royal Lions UK on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And the group for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans UK 1 Pride Worldwide. You can read Ash's preview article of this game on royallionsuk.com. It just remains for me to say to all of you that the NFL is back and the Lions are roaring for the first time in what feels like forever. Good luck on Thursday, everyone. We're with you. Let's go, Lions. One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.
And there was one question from Brent who said, do you think they double hutch, and how will we deploy our front seven in your opinion? So I felt like we were on a roll and it was a bit specific to address in our flow when it was kind of what we were talking about before. But what do you think we're going to do with our front seven, and is Hutch going to be the victim of some double teams out there?
Of course he'll be. I think they'll rotate it quite a lot, and I think you should just keep putting fresh bodies in there. You know, in case you can't replenish that offensive line, you know, you just keep grinding them down, keep going after them. I'd play 4. I don't want to see any of this rushing 3 crap for this, because their interior is too good. They'll isolate whoever's in the middle, and then the guards will move outside, and I think they'll provide good protection there. I want to see us be aggressive with the front 7. 2 guys on the interior, 2 on the, and I want to see us blitzing guys. I want to see us up at the line of scrimmage, corners blitzing, safeties blitzing. You know, that is the way to go with this. I mean, obviously you've got to kind of stop the run first to get to that point, but overall, you know, I want to see the front 7 deployed aggressively. I don't want us to sit in coverage. I don't want us to sit and wait for he'll pick us to bits. I just want to get at him, lay some hits on him, make him uncomfortable, and then work from there. But I want to see 4, and I want to see us rush 4 quite often.
I mean, I think it's going to be a 6 more often than not. I can't see us living in base very much, to be honest. I think they're going to want branch out there as much as humanly possible. The linebackers, it's hard to call whether this is going to be a game for Barnes or Campbell on the whole. I actually expect them both to play on the field with Anzalone off the field a little bit as well. I know that Anzalone is some sort of unquestioned every down player, but Barnes can play Will. Jack can play Mike. So don't think that Alex is going to play every single down out there. I hope they start with and play the most Derek. I believe in the jump that he's made. And when you look at what we're talking about, what might translate to winning games, we're talking about putting the quarterback under pressure. Derek Barnes is that guy. He was born for that role. And Jack is a speedy, athletic guy, but Barnes looks like the more athletic player on tape when you watch them. Barnes could wreak havoc in this game, especially if he doesn't have to worry about Kelsey. So I want to see Barnes take the most reps here over Campbell. We can ease Campbell in, not situationally. I mean, 65-35, 60-40 is absolutely fine. With the defensive front, I can see us moving to 3 or 4 depending on roles. Actually, with Mahomes, the last time we played him, we played a lot of 3-4. We were playing 3-4 anyway at that time. But playing 3-4 worked really well. This was the game where Kansas City really struggled to have a passing touchdown against us until late. Or no, he didn't. He didn't throw a passing touchdown against us. And one of the reasons why is that we kept him in the pocket. The ends of the 3-4, the 5-2, as I shall now call it, they were not rushing the passer. They were playing contain and forcing Mahomes to throw from the pocket, but collapsing the pocket inward, and that actually was very effective. So, I mean, it was a long time ago. I'm not suggesting we should follow that mantra now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of 3-4 as well as 4-3, because situationally, I think that makes sense. So, I think what you've got to do is not be predictable. Don't do the same thing as often as you can. Just mix it up, give him different looks, give them similar looks and do different things. Be as hidden as you can. This defense is full of smart players now, full of players that should know what they're doing, who have the skills to back it up. And the way that you take advantage of that is by adding in complexity. So that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I agree. You've got to show different looks. You've got to keep him guessing. But you've got to throw a healthy amount of blitz in as well as a healthy amount of coverage. You've got to make him think that he might be under some threat there. And you know, their offensive line's a lot better than that time we played them then. They got one of the best centers in the NFL. They got a good pair of guards in there. Tackles solid. It's going to take a lot to be able to bully them with 3 rushes. So you're going to have to use that. I bring Barnes and Houston in and just send them. Just wind them up, let them go, send them into cause in havoc, whilst your guys up front create the lanes for them and get people occupied. They're fast. They're quick. Bring Barnes up to the edge. You can bring Barnes up to the edge. You can play him from there. You can bring Houston up there, and they'll get to him in no time. So, yeah, you've just got to be very creative against them. That's what the best guys do. See what the Broncos did against them last year. They just mixed it up so many different ways. They brought up their secondary to blitz a lot. They showed them a lot of different looks on the front line. They bought late blitzers in, etc. So that's how you do it. You know, you got to be brave or go home. I don't want us to sit there meekly and take it. I would rather us put up a fight. That's all I want to see from them.
Fair. One last question from Brent, and then we're going to go. He asks, with Hutch being double-teamed a lot, who gets the most sacks in the game?
It's funny, because I was about to put this up on YouTube, who's going to get the first... on Twitter, sorry, who's going to get the first sack. Yeesh.
I really wouldn't be surprised if it comes from the other side. I think Charles Harris is going to have himself a game.
I think it'd be Houston. Houston had, 2 sacks against Buffalo from his backup position? I honestly think if you send these guys in early, then Houston will come in and clear. I think Houston will do well. I think we use him correctly. He's the game changer. He's what we didn't have last time. The guy who's got the elite bend, who can just really put a guy out and get to the quarterback in a flash, which you got to do with Patrick. So I think Houston could be beneficiary here later on in the game. I don't know if we'll sack him much early on.
Fair. Right, we're going to call it a close there, guys, because it's a hella long week for us. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll see you Wednesday, Thursday, and then 2 further times later on in the week, hopefully. Have yourself a great week. Good luck on Thursday. We'll see you on this channel for the game. For now. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.